in, so we might recognize them while we're waiting for the vice chair and the ranking minority. Welcome. Lucky for you, we are running a couple minutes late. We're waiting on 2 members of our committee. That's all right. This may be the most well-attended committee meeting we've had in a long time. Okay, let's get some excited, huh? Come in, there's seats in the front, of course, you know. You may sit in the front if you wish. Well, welcome, committee members. We will start here with our committee bills in just a second, but we wanted to recognize a large group of individuals that just came into the room. Dan, did you want to say a few words? We're happy to have them here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dan Murray, I represent the Kansas Association of Insurance Agents. We have our legislative day today, and so we've got about 30 insurance agents from across the state in town, and we appreciate the opportunity for you to welcome them and to sit in on the committee and see how things are done.
Yes, well, welcome, everybody. Yeah, thank you. We're happy to have you here today. We're going to work a couple bills. We're going to have a couple hearings. I think it'll be riveting. And welcome, absolutely. So first, we are going to open the hearing on House Bill 2333. And Eileen, would you like to give us a brief on that bill?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 2333 is the one that we fondly call the name change bill. It renames the Kansas Insurance Department, the Office of the Securities Commissioner of Kansas, and the title of the Securities Commissioner of Kansas. The bill also modifies the appointment process for the Securities Commissioner of Kansas. Section 1 renames the Kansas Insurance Department as the Kansas Department of Insurance and transfers and imposes all powers, duties, and functions of the Kansas Insurance Department onto the Kansas Department of Insurance. We're going from KID to KDOI. Section 1 also states that whenever the Kansas Insurance Department or words of like effect are used in statutes, contracts, or other documents, they shall be deemed to apply to the Kansas Department of Insurance. Also, the section stipulates that all rules and regulations, orders, and directives of the Commissioner of Insurance of the Kansas Insurance Department that are in effect as of July 1 of this year shall continue to be effective and shall be deemed to be the rules and regulations, orders, and directives of the Commissioner of Insurance of the Kansas Department of Insurance. Section 2 renames the Office of the Securities Commissioner of Kansas as the Department of Insurance Securities Division, and the Securities Commissioner of Kansas is now going to be called the Department of Insurance Assistant Commissioner Securities Division. As in Section 1, the section stipulates that whenever the Office of the Securities Commissioner of Kansas or words of like effect are used in statutes, contracts, or other documents, they'll be deemed to refer to the Department of Insurance Securities Division. And the stipulation also applies that whenever the Securities Commissioner of Kansas or words of like effect are used in statutes, contracts, or other documents, they shall be deemed to refer to the Department of Insurance Assistant Commissioner Securities Division. Lastly, again, all rules and regulations, orders, and directives of the Securities Commissioner of Kansas shall be deemed to be the rules and regulations, orders, and directives of the Department of Insurance Assistant Commissioner Securities Division. Section 3 amends KSA 4102, which is the enactment statute for the Kansas Insurance Department. The amendment to this section officially changes the creation of the Kansas Insurance Department to the creation of the Kansas Department of Insurance and makes the corresponding amendments as needed within the statute. Section 4 amends KSA 75-6301, which is the enactment statute for the Office of the Securities Commissioner of Kansas. And again, here the amendment changes the creation of the Office of the Securities Commissioner of Kansas which is administered by the Securities Commissioner of Kansas, to the Department of Insurance Securities Division that is now administered by the Department of Insurance Assistant Commissioner Securities Division. Again, there are corresponding amendments made throughout the statute. Lastly, the amendment to subsection A removes the requirement that a person appointed as the Department of Insurance Assistant Commissioner Securities Division be confirmed by the Senate before taking office. I'm going to make one statement regarding the bill before I give you the legislative history on it. This bill was originally intended to make all the sweeping changes throughout the Kansas Insurance Code relating to any time the Insurance Department was referenced, or the Securities Commissioner of Kansas was referenced, or the Office of Security. It was a 300-plus page bill that kept crashing the bill drafting system. So those 300 pages have been turned into, 3 or so pages, and there will need to be a trailer bill that follows to make the rest of those sweeping changes. So I'm not off the hook, but you guys are for now. The House Committee on Insurance passed the bill out of committee with no amendments, and the bill passed the House Committee of the Whole on a vote of 117 to 6 on February 20th, and I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Committee questions for Eileen regarding this bill? Senator Gossage?
No questions, just a comment. It just makes common sense. Everything else that we have is the Department of, the Department of, the Department of. And this has been called KID for a long time. And it's just time.
Now it's going to be K-DOI.
KDOI, got it. Anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Haley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see no opponents here today, and thank you for this. So why did anybody vote against it, if you have any idea?
Honestly, I staffed the floor, and it's a big echo chamber, and I just heard the vote, and that was about it.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't hear explanations.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Committee? No other questions? Thank you, Eileen. Our first proponent today, and I think our only proponent, is Steve Kerr, General Counsel, Kansas Department of Insurance.
Thank you. So I just want to briefly, first of all, give a huge thank you to Eileen. She was very helpful in drafting this bill so that we did not bring in 300 pages to you, and she helped simplify it. So I very much appreciate that. I will kind of just lightly touch on all three areas. First, as to the name change to Department of Insurance, the weird part is in the enabling statute, it does say Insurance Department, but then there's roughly about 20 to 25 statutes where we are referenced as Department of Insurance. And so this will make that consistent throughout as Department of Insurance rather than which one is it, Insurance Department or Department of Insurance. It also brings us into comparison with the majority of states that have standalone insurance agencies. There's about 18 other states that have that. Not all states have that. Insurance might be part of the Commerce Department. They might be a division of another agency, things like that. But there's at least 18 other states, Nebraska, Indiana, Illinois. Those are some in the Midwest, Missouri as well, Michigan. And that's important because oftentimes individuals that are insureds or insurers are reaching out to Kansas, but they're not in Kansas. They're from another state. And so the more uniformity we have with other states, it makes it easier for them to know who to contact and how to do that. It also, sometimes people get confused that we are actually an insurance agency, and of course we're not. So this helps in all of that. The second piece of this is really in two parts, but essentially completes or attempts to complete what you all did back in 2017 when you made the Securities Commissioner part of the Insurance Department. This really clarifies that. The piece about renaming the Securities Commissioner to being an Assistant Commissioner of the Securities Division, what that does is really clarifies what the structure is. One of the things that the Commissioner has done in accordance with the statutes in 2017 has brought the securities cases underneath the insurance. There's no longer two buildings. That was part of the intent of that bill, was to create some efficiency and be able to share staffs and things of that nature. Obviously, that took time to do, but it has now been done. And so it really makes sense that structurally and how things work day to day is that obviously the person handling securities reports to the commissioner. And the final piece of this is dealing with the issue of Senate confirmation. And I understand it made sense in 2017 to have that in there because you still had two separate agencies, two separate buildings, two separate staffs. But that no longer, we have now accomplished what you wanted us to do, and we have consolidated those into one agency. Most Senate confirmations occur with either commissions, board members, or standalone agencies, the head of the standalone agencies. I give you one example. KBI and Attorney General. Now, it's true that the KBI director serves at the pleasure of the Attorney General. However, the KBI is located in a separate building, in fact, multiple buildings across the state, has hundreds of employees, has its separate HR, really operates independent, somewhat independent of the Attorney General's office. That is very different than what you have in our circumstance. What we really have now is essentially, if you looked at the Attorney General has a chief deputy, right? This would be like confirming that chief deputy. We don't do that really in any other agency. The Deputy Secretary of State, they're not Senate confirmed. So this really brings in line how we are with other agencies now and kind of completes, I think, what the intent or what we believe the intent of the legislature was in 2017 when they passed Senate Bill 23. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. That was a very thorough explanation. Does anybody on the committee have any questions for the speaker? No? Oh, Senator Argabright, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. That was a lot of information, and Eileen had a mouthful of information to share with us and did very well. So we have honored guests here today. So in just common terms, how's this more efficient for all of the good people visiting us today?
Sure, that's a great question. First of all, you know, we have a legal division at the Department of Insurance, which I'm in charge of. We serve now both insurance and securities. And so you can have attorneys who are doing both insurance law and securities law. They're not limited in just doing one, which allows us to basically garner those resources so that we're not having to have separate staffs of attorneys here for securities, separate staff. And that essentially reduces the number of attorneys that we ultimately have to have. Same thing with like HR. You don't have two separate HR departments, one for securities, one for insurance. So there's just some efficiencies that are garnered in that. And so hopefully that answers your question. Yes.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. So I don't see any opponents, no neutrals. So at this point in time, I will close the hearing on House Bill 2333 and open the hearing on House Bill 2128. Eileen, would you like to brief the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2128 is the bill that we refer to as the Insurance Department's accreditation bill. It's the House version of our Senate Bill 121.
Eileen, you're clearing the room. I don't know what's wrong with this bill.
I demee.
This is a huge insurance bill here.
I promised I showered and everything this morning.
Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just thought it was funny.
House Bill 28 is the House version of Senate Bill 121. This is the very technical bill that added the group capital calculation and liquidity stress test requirements from the NAIC Insurance Holding Company System Regulatory Model Act to our State Insurance Holding Company Act. It provides definitions. It authorizes the commissioner to require an insurer to secure and maintain a deposit or bond under certain circumstances, requires the commissioner to maintain confidentiality of certain documents that are produced within the group capital calculation and related information that is received from insurance holding companies. This bill also creates a process by which the commissioner of insurance may select and announce the version of certain instructions, documents, and calculations that would be in effect for the upcoming year, and requires the commissioner to publish that announcement of those versions of documents in the Kansas Register by December 1st. This is how we're going to fix the annual date change bills so that it no longer will have to be done every year. The House Committee on Insurance amended the bill on the department's request to insert the word material before transactions on page 14 of the bill in line 32. And the House Committee of the Whole passed the bill unanimously on February 20th, and I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Committee, any questions for the reviser? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Eileen. So it looks like we have Steve at the podium again, one proponent. Steve, Kara?
Thank you, Madam Chair and fellow members.
Before you speak, am I saying your last name wrong?
It's Carr, like C-A-R.
Carr.
Yes, but it.
I apologize.
The Germans screwed it up and added a bunch of letters.
I should know that. I
No,
apologize.
You're fine.
People mispronounce my name all the time as well, so.
You were very close, so I wasn't saying anything.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm not going to speak a lot about this bill because you have actually heard this bill in Senate Bill 121. As Eileen said, this is our accreditation bill. I just really want to talk about why accreditation is important. Accreditation is done by NAIC, and they base accreditation on quite a few things, but one of the factors that they address that on is that our statutes match as closely as possible a model statute that they have. And that's for consistency among the states. That's important because if we are not accredited, then a domesticated company in Kansas is not just regulated by us, but then they would be regulated by every state that they operate in, which would obviously be very detrimental to them trying to satisfy sometimes 50 or 50, more than 50 regulators. This is much more efficient of having the domesticated regulator do the bulk of the regulation. And so accreditation allows us to do that. So that's why that's important. Second thing that I'll mention, in Senate Bill 121, you added what was referred to kind of as the town amendment. And that actually passed out of that bill, Senate Bill 121, with the town amendment, passed out of the House committee yesterday. We are not opposed to that town amendment because it creates clarity about whether we regulate self-funded plans. And it would make clear that we do not, and we have not for basically the existence of Kansas. And so we are not opposed to that if you would add that to this bill as well. And I'll stand for questions.
When you talked about the town amendment, that is that self-insured plan language that we added, correct?
Yes, that's exactly right. And town is referencing the Supreme Court case that had kind of created that issue.
Thank you. Committee questions? No questions? Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've got your name implanted on my brain now.
That's
Sorry.
fine.
It's all good, all good. Thank you. I don't see on our agenda, and I don't see, since everybody cleared the room, that we have any opponents or any neutrals. So at this point in time, we're going to close the hearing on House Bill 2128. All right, committee? Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Gossage.
Madam Chair, I would just like to note that I think it's pretty presumptive of Steve to have at the top of his letterhead, Department of Insurance, before we've
Yes.
actually
So
voted on
soon.
that.
Is it too soon? Too soon.
It's too soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Committee, we're going to work two bills today. We've got, the first one is going to be House Bill 2042. Does anybody need a refresher on that? Eileen, do you want to give him a little? Yes. We do have an amendment for 2042. Oh.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2042, as you recall, is the House version of our Senate Bill 22. This is the bill that requires title agents to make their audit reports available for inspection instead of submitting those reports annually. It also standardizes the amount of surety bonds filed with the Commissioner of Insurance to be $100,000 across the board, and would eliminate the controlled business exemption for real estate transactions in counties with populations less than 10,000 people. And again, the House Committee on Insurance amended the bill to make the effective date January 1, 2026. That was on the department's request, and the House Committee of the Whole passed the bill on a vote of 103 to 8 on February 7th.
Very good. Any questions, committee? What's the committee's desire? Senator Fagg?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Eileen, can you, for some new people here, tell about the statute book and the Kansas Register, just so they understand that?
Sure. When a bill says it's effective upon publication of the statute book, that date is July 1st of the year, of the legislative year. When a bill refers to being published in the Kansas Register. The Kansas Register is published by the Secretary of State. It's published twice a month. So when a bill is enacted upon publication in the Kansas Register, it's a much briefer process. So as soon as the bill is passed across both floors and then signed by the government, the closest publication of the Kansas Register, the bill would appear in its entirety in that document, and then be effective upon the date that that Kansas Register was published.
That's a great explanation, thank you. Madam Chair, then I have an amendment that you have in front of you, and it's just changing that from the statute book to the Kansas Register. So it's just going to become a little quicker that way.
Okay. Any questions on that amendment? Senator Warren? Oh, you're a second. Well, did you move it? Yes. Okay, second, Senator Warren. Any questions on the amendment? I'm sorry, I jumped over that. Okay, very good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We will pass that out to the floor as amended. Okay, thank you. Our second bill that we're going to work is House Bill 2043. Oh, we did the amendment, but not the bill. Back on the bill. We passed the amendment. So I would take a motion on the bill. Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move that we move HB 2042 as amended, favorable for passage.
Second. I'm looking around the room. Okay, Senator Gossage, very good. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Now it passes, and we're ready to move it to the floor. Thank you so much. I'll try and get my motion straight here. Next, House Bill 2043. And we'll ask Eileen to refresh our memory on that. You're passing out two amendments. We'll wait till Eileen's finished. Hang on a second.
Yes, it says inquiry related to a particular matter. What particular matter? Oh, the complaint is. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yes, all relating to the consumer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2043 is the bill that would require agents and insurance agents and insurers to respond to an inquiry from the Commissioner of Insurance that is related to a particular matter within 14 calendar days. The bill would also allow an insurer or producer that is testing a value-added product or service to request additional time to determine if that product or service will satisfy the criteria required to offer it on a permanent basis. This is the House version of our Senate Bill 23. The House Committee on Insurance amended the bill relating to those timeframes to require an inquiry from the commissioner relating to a particular matter within 14 calendar days, and also requiring an insurer to respond to any inquiry from the commissioner within 14 calendar days. They just took 14 calendar days and made it straight across the board. Those amendments appear on page 8 and line 16, and also on page 14, lines 13 through 17. The House Committee of the Whole passed the bill on a vote of 97 to 14 on February 7th.
Thank you. And folks, you should have an amendment, two amendments, but the larger one is the one we want to talk about right now. Is this Senator Gossage's amendment?
Yes, I do
Senator
have an
Gossage?
amendment. Thank you. As we discussed, when we heard this bill, we felt that the House might have been a bit zealous in changing everything to 14 calendar days, in that we are wanting to, at the department, and as an agent, you want the complaint, whatever that complaint can be, from the consumer to be handled right away. That should be as soon as possible, because it takes time to correct all of those things, and we want the agency or the agent to respond as quickly as possible. However, the insurance companies, when it comes, and the department, are fine when it comes to any other type inquiries that's directly from the department for the 15 business days. So thus the two separate timelines. And as Eileen indicated, starting on line 15, that has been corrected to say the 14 calendar days. And it's also clarified on page 14 with 15 business days or failed to respond to an inquiry within 14 calendar days from the commissioner concerning a complaint. So it clarifies it in both spots. And thank you for your help, Eileen.
Thank you for the explanation. Any questions for the care of the amendment? Senator Francisco?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we heard earlier this morning, and we could get it confirmed, that there are references both to the insurance department and the Department of Insurance in our statutes. So I'm wondering, and if it would make any sense to say from the Department of Insurance in this, just so we don't have to clean it up later. Just
Eileen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to the senator's question, we can't make that change yet because 2333 hasn't been passed. That's the reason for the cleanup bill at the end.
So I understand it hasn't been passed, but I also heard that there are references to both. And was that not the case in our existing statutes?
Eileen?
I can't speak for errors that came before me, but I certainly would not want to make the problem worse and compound the issue.
I think what I'm hearing is you'd just leave it like it is for now until we get the cleanup bill and 2333 passes.
That's fine. I just
Okay.
wanted,
Yeah.
and I very much appreciate that clarification.
Thank you, Senator Francisco, for asking that. Any other questions about the amendment? If not, I'm ready to take a motion.
I move my amendment.
Is there a second? Senator Rose? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Amendment passes. Do we have another amendment? Senator Fack?
Madam Chair, I've got another complicated amendment.
Okay.
If you look on the back page of that amendment, you'll notice that's going from the statute book to the Kansas Register. So it just moves the process up a little quicker with that.
Do you have a motion? Did you make?
Is there any questions?
Oh,
Okay. I move my amendment.
is there a second? Senator Argabright, are there any questions regarding that massive change in this bill? Senator Francisco?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, since we already have a change, and it's different, does this help our revisor in terms of keeping track of amendments or make it more difficult?
Good question, I don't know.
I would prefer that the date change amendment stand. It would make it easier if the date change amendment appears on all of the bills that we work.
Hearing that, I'm very comfortable with this amendment.
Okay, very good. Thank you all. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, that bill has, amendment has passed. Now we're on the bill. Sorry. I'm just so eager to get these bills out of here. I'm just so sorry. Sorry. Motion on the bill as amended. Senator Gossage? What? Senator Francisco?
More discussion.
On, okay.
So all I wanted to do was say, this is the bill where I had offered an amendment about the pilot program, and I understand that would make the process more complicated, so I'm not offering that amendment now, but I hope that the committee recognized that we did have that in our Senate bill, and I hope that that would still be considered the Senate position. And so this is to say that when an insurer or producer requests a pilot or testing period, that the commissioner has the ability to grant it. So just wanted to explain.
Just as an FYI, we did work the Senate version of this bill yesterday, and it did pass out of committee with the senator's amendment intact.
Good. So Senate's position is in there. Thank you. Thank you for asking the question. I'm sorry to jump the gun on you, sorry. Okay, motion on the bill as amended. Senator Fagg?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we pass out AU 2043 as amended.
Thank you. Second, Senator Gossage. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the bill passes and will be on our general orders hopefully soon. Very good. All right. Thank you all. Good work today. I will do better tomorrow.